Hello, this is Idodmg and welcome back to the channel. In this Sands of Aura video, I want to talk about this indie action RPG that claims to be a little bit of a Souls-like game. This one has been a little bit of a mystery to me, and I've really been waiting for the Steam Festival from February 3rd to February 9th. You can actually check out the demo of this game, and I really recommend you do. There's something special with this game, something really intriguing, and that's what I want to talk to you about today is my impressions, my time spent with the demo, and just some feedback hopefully that'll help out make the game even better. Thank you so much for your time in watching this video. Now let's go ahead and talk Sands of Aura. As I said before, I really didn't do a lot of research on this game. I knew it was a game that looked cool, was something I wanted to check out, and I just wanted to wait until the demo was actually available for us to go ahead and get first impressions instead of just researching everything about the game. From the minute I stepped foot into Sands of Aura, you start out in this dungeon cave type area that's really dark and gloomy. I started originally playing with the mouse and keyboard, which uses a WASD movement system, and the camera is controlled with your mouse. I quickly switched over to the controller. I was streaming over on the DMGCREW Discord, and a shout out to Ten Squid. He's like, just play with controller. So I checked it out, and I definitely recommend controller for this game. I'm sure you could play effectively with the keyboard and mouse as well, but that was just kind of my opinions and what I did. But from the minute I stepped foot into this cave, I wanted to explore. I wanted to see what there was. There, you start out with a tutorial area where it teaches you the basics of the game and combat and different things like that we'll talk about later. If you've ever played a Dark Souls-like game, you'll know kind of what I'm talking about here. And I'm not going to talk about difficulty because I don't like to comment on that. But the world is all intertwined, at least this first cave dungeon that you take part in. It's all intertwined, and once you've cleared the whole thing, you see how it all links together. And it's really, really cool. And that's kind of a trend we see from the Dark Soul maps in the world as well, is how it's just one giant labyrinth or maze. The game does offer different weapons and loot and runes, and this is fully implemented in the demo, and I'm really excited to see what they're all going to do with it. I do have some critiques though, but let's go ahead and talk about the good first. There's a lot of different weapon types. I think there's like 6 or 8 different weapons. I used the glaive, and I think the spear is all I used for the demo. You can have a main and a primary weapon equipped and toggle in between the two. While you're out slaying enemies and hunting for treasure chests, you're going to find better equipment, and you're going to also find runes that you can put into this gear. I managed to find a green quality set of gear. I think I saw a purple item, but haven't picked it up yet. I plan to go back and play a little bit more of that dungeon that you can do later on in the demo. Each item that I had 2 rune slots on it for your armor, and your armor pieces is what you can use to just put runes on. So you get increased health, you deal more spell damage, different things like that, haste. But what's really cool with the rune system is they have different ones that are based around elements. And you can actually go in and attach these to each of your weapons. So you can have 2 different runes on effectively. And putting on the rune on your weapon doesn't just change the element of your weapon. It actually gives you a rune or like a spell ability that you can use. I primarily used Frost for my playthrough. I really enjoyed being able to stun an ice block when needed. It just, once you use the spell, I think it has a 10-second cooldown. Your attacks do different things. Your primary attacks will freeze for ice, and then if you do your defensive button, you'll ice block. It was really an interesting system, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do with it. Hopefully down the road there's a way to plus up your runes or maybe customize your skills or a little bit more in that regard. But I think for this early iteration, it's definitely a step in the right direction. Before we go ahead and talk about combat, one last thing I want to comment on loot, and I think this really needs to be looked at, is you find these items, these runes, these different pieces of gear, things like that, and some of them will have a red skull on the icon. And what this indicates is that when your character dies, you drop those items on the floor. You have one chance to go back and get them, but if you die on your way to get that loot back, that is then lost for good. It's pretty much like Dark Souls and getting your souls back type of thing. One thing that I would like to see is, and maybe it's already implemented and I just didn't see it in my time playing, I'd like to see a player stash so that I can put away my stuff when I'm back in town resting up and preparing for the next dungeon. I think that just having a safe space to save all your stuff is a great idea. Now, you can go and vendor the items and get some currency that way, which then would secure your loot, I guess, since you don't drop your currency when you die. But I would just like to see a way to hold on to some of the runes that maybe I want to check out later instead of being forced to carry them at all times or vendor them. Add a player stash and a safe place for me to put my items when I'm done in the dungeon, and I'll be happy. Thank you. Let's go ahead and talk about combat. Combat's a huge part of every action RPG. We already know this to be true. It's what you're doing for the majority of the game, so if the combat's not fun, the game's not going to be fun. I'm happy to say that the combat on Sands of Ora is definitely decent. I'm not going to say that it's super amazing or super impressive. It does have its issues. But let's go ahead and talk about what I did enjoy with the combat first. I really enjoy the weapons I used. Again, I used the glaive for my secondary weapon, and I used the spear for my primary. I stuck to the spear weapon just because it just did more damage than the glaive. But the way it works, and I use controller, is your primary attack is right bumper, and it's just a slashing attack, and it does a decent amount of damage with the relatively attack speed tied to it. But once you've attacked 3 or 4 times, you then charge up your power attack, which is used by right trigger, and this is for the spear anyway, it was like a ground slam ability, and it just pretty much one-shot everything in a pretty large area. It was definitely a nice payoff, and definitely was really, really key to taking down the very first boss. The first boss was a challenge, by the way. Not gonna lie, I almost rage quit at one point, but when I beat that boss, I literally stood up out of my chair, jumped for joy. I was so happy and so proud of myself for overcoming that challenge. And that's something I really miss, is that challenging fight. So props to that first boss fight, and the dungeon thereafter is also a nice challenge. Other than your basic attack, power attack, you also have the rune power that we talked about earlier. You also have a dodge, a parry, a block, all that stuff that you would expect to see in this type of game. It's basically a Souls-like game, but it's isometric. It's definitely fun. It's definitely fun, definitely interesting. And I want to play more of the game. But there's one thing about the combat that I really was not a fan of, and this is you have to cleanse your weapons. What this means is as you attack and you kill enemies, your weapon takes damage. Basically, cleansing is repairing in essence. It doesn't have any resources that you have to use to cleanse it. It's just you have to step out of combat, press the cleanse button, and it's a quick animation, and then your weapon's healed back to full. If you choose to not cleanse it, and it's all the way out of the durability, it's just going to do very minimal damage. So you really do have to cleanse. But my issue was this really broke up the combat, I thought, and I really don't see a point to the cleansing mechanic. Perhaps it's tied into the lore somehow. I didn't read any of the story because none of it's voice acted, and I just didn't really feel like reading. But I don't know. I'm really curious to see what the idea is behind having to cleanse your weapon mid-fight. It just seemed to really kind of break up the flow for me. Then again, there was times where, it was like, well, I've already dodged out to dodge this powerful attack. I might as well just get a cleanse off as well. So I don't know. I don't know if they're just trying to do something unique or what it is. And it wouldn't be as bad, but it's like every 3 to 4 attacks, I have to go cleanse my weapon. Like at least increase the durability on that. And I don't know, maybe you can find stronger weapons down the line that have more durability on them. I'm not entirely sure on that. The little bit I did play, I'm really not a fan of the cleanse mechanic, and I just hope it gets revisited, balanced, maybe just increase the durability, like I said, to really not interrupt that flow of combat. I think that'd be definitely a good change to see. The last little bit here, again, I'm trying to keep the video really short for you guys because you really got to go check this demo out. I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video. The demo is from February 3rd, and it ends on February 9th, so go check out the demo before the 9th. You really got to check this game out. There's something special to it. Last little bit I want to comment on is, I played the demo for around an hour. The demo's relatively small. You have the starting cave, and there's quite a bit in there with a boss, and then you also have a town hub-like area that you can explore, get a little bit of the feeling of the world, and I found another dungeon that you can do that's in that town that was quite the challenge. I'm actually, after this video, I'm going to go back and try to finish completing that dungeon. And then other than that, you get a little bit of a taste of exploring the world and the boats that they're showing off in their trailer and stuff, where you go out and you pretty much boat across the sands or whatever. I don't know. It's not really a hovercraft, but it's kind of a big thing in their game, is traveling from world to world via these sand boats or something like that. I'm not sure what they're entirely called, but anyway, the last thing I want to comment here is the bosses and dungeons are an absolute blast. The challenge is there, and fully overcoming that challenge is something that I've really missed. I've missed that feeling of accomplishment and not just outgearing the mobs. You actually have to use your skills, abilities, kind of plan out what runes you want to use, perhaps switch around your power runes as well to change your spells according to the situation that you're in. And overall, I just had a blast, man. I just want more. I finished the demo wanting more. I really want to wish Chashu Entertainment, hopefully I'm saying that name correctly, I apologize if not, the developer and publisher behind Sands of Ora, good luck on this game. This demo is amazing. Honestly, guys, you got to go check it out. It's impressive. The world, aesthetics, the atmosphere, combat, loot, everything about it. Go check it out before February 9th. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and all the content on the channel. If so, don't forget to like, subscribe, share the channel with your friends. And just a reminder, starting on this Friday, we will be streaming primarily on YouTube. We're going to be starting out with Neo 2. That's going to be the first game that I stream on the channel. And I'm really pumped for the game. It brings me back to my childhood. Look out for videos talking about Neo 2 in the future. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for your continued support. It means the world to me. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.